There's something they never told you about the biggest transformations in your life. They don't arrive the way you imagine, with clear signs, advance warnings, or an instruction manual. In fact, the deepest changes come in an almost cruel way, through a silent restlessness that grows inside you until suddenly you wake up and realize you no longer fit into your own life. It's as if you grew overnight, but the world around you stayed the same size. Conversations no longer make sense, environments feel too small, and there's a voice whispering in the back of your mind. It's time to jump. Not physically, not symbolically, quantumly. Most people think quantum jumping is a metaphor, a spiritual way of saying change your mindset or imagine a better future. But what if I told you there's a specific scientific protocol with 5 measurable steps that can make you jump from one reality to another in less than a week? What if it's not a metaphor at all, but a real and measurable process, an energy alignment shift so precise that transformation happens without a bridge? Imagine for a moment, and this will seem impossible until you experience it, that there's a version of you right at this moment, living the life you've always wanted. Not in the future, but now, in a parallel reality. And the only thing separating you from that version is a specific energetic frequency you haven't learned to sustain yet. Like an electron jumping from one orbit to another without passing through the space between them. In quantum physics, this is called a discontinuous transition. The electron doesn't travel from one energy state to another. It disappears from one place and appears in another instantly when enough energy is absorbed. This isn't poetry. This is pure science. What if you, as a vibrational being entangled with infinite timelines, function the same way? What if every time you felt the urge to let go, break free, or walk away, it wasn't just emotional restlessness, it was your field preparing to jump? But most people don't listen, they rationalize, they wait. They analyze the cost of change while their soul has already left. The mind tries to catch up to a decision the heart already made. That's why transformation feels chaotic, because you're fighting a jump that already started. And the only thing delaying it is your attachment to the how. See, quantum jumps don't follow logic. They don't need explanation. They only need coherence, alignment, a decision that vibrates higher than your fear. That's when the field responds. That's when the jump locks in. And you felt this before, haven't you? That moment when a relationship ended and you felt 10 years lighter instantly. When you quit the job and the air suddenly tasted different. But wait, here comes the part that's going to seem almost ridiculous in its simplicity, but that very few people do consciously. And when you understand this, you'll realize why some people transform their lives in a matter of days, while others stay trapped in the same patterns for decades. When you stopped explaining yourself and the world responded with silence and then with miracles. Those were jumps, not gradual changes, not linear progressions, but leaps, not in your calendar but in your signal. And the reason you didn't see immediate proof wasn't because nothing happened. It was because the field was still reorganizing around your new coordinates. Because that's how it works. The moment you choose, not wish, not hope, but choose a new state of being, the field begins rearranging. But most people abort the jump too early. They get nervous when nothing changes in 3D reality immediately. They doubt, they return, and the timeline collapses back to the familiar. Quantum jumping doesn't require belief. It requires broadcast. You don't have to convince yourself it's real. You just have to stop sending the signal of who you used to be. And that's where this process truly begins, because you're about to understand why quantum jumping isn't a metaphor. It's a process, a science, a strategy of vibrational precision. And when you learn how to engage this deliberately, without waiting for life to push you, you stop reacting to circumstances. You start selecting them. You can't jump while holding on. That's the first rule, and the one most people resist. Because jumping isn't about getting something new, it's about becoming someone different. And that means letting die what no longer vibrates. Thoughts, habits, personas, timelines, narratives. Not all at once, but energetically, completely. You can't broadcast the frequency of your future while remaining entangled with the emotion of your past. The field can't receive 2 signals at once, and it doesn't respond to the loudest voice. It responds to the clearest one. And here's something fascinating I discovered watching people who've mastered this. They never try to get rid of old thoughts. Instead, they do something that seems contradictory, but works like magic. But before I tell you what that is, I need to show you something even more important. This is where quantum mechanics and identity psychology overlap. In the quantum field, all possibilities exist simultaneously as potential. You don't create your new timeline, you access it. And the key isn't in doing more, trying harder, or visualizing longer. It's in collapsing the wave of your current self, becoming emotionally and neurologically unavailable for the version of you that created this present reality. And that's the paradox. You don't find your new life by fixing the old one. You jump by no longer being the one who needed it fixed. This isn't theory. In neuroscience, we know that identity isn't just a story. It's a set of neural pathways. When you wake up and immediately replay your problems, anxieties, regrets, you're reactivating the familiar self. That self has a frequency. That frequency tells the quantum field, keep broadcasting the same. But what happens when you interrupt that loop? When you wake up and ask, what would my future self do now? And then, without evidence, you act as if, not pretending, not faking, but deciding. Because every future is a frequency, and every identity is a code. You don't earn it. You tune into it. And that tuning requires one thing above all, emotional congruence. If you affirm abundance but still feel scarcity, the field responds to the feeling. If you visualize success but still carry guilt, the field mirrors the guilt. This isn't failure, it's feedback. The universe isn't judging you, it's calibrating to you, and here's the twist nobody tells you. Most people are unconsciously sabotaging their own jump because of a mistake so common, it's almost comical. Spoiler: it has to do with what you do in the first 3 minutes after waking up. So the question is, what are you still emotionally practicing that belongs to the self you're leaving behind? Worry, people-pleasing, hiding. These aren't just patterns, they're frequencies, and they're keeping you entangled with the timeline you say you want to leave. To collapse the identity is to stop rehearsing it. And you don't need 30 days, 21 steps, or a ritual moon cycle. You need a moment of total energetic honesty. You look at the version of you that's addicted to the old story, and you say, I love you, but I no longer choose you. That's the split. That's the jump. That's the shift the field responds to. Because the field is always scanning for coherence, not perfection, not excitement, coherence. A state where your thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs all match the frequency of the life you say you want. When you hit that note, even for a second, the quantum field locks in. And then something strange happens. The need to prove, to push, to get dissolves. You feel neutral, clear, and that neutrality isn't detachment. It's evidence that the old identity is no longer active. That's why transformation sometimes feels boring, because without the drama of doubt, without the friction of duality, there's just presence. And presence is power. Speaking of power, did you know there's a specific time window, exactly 90 seconds, where you can literally reprogram your reality? And most people waste this window every day without knowing it exists. But you'll discover that soon. Because first I need to tell you about the biggest misconception that keeps people stuck. You are no longer waiting for the shift. You are no longer becoming the self. You are the self. And the field, like a mirror with no delay, begins to reflect that back. But only if you hold it. Only if you don't blink. Only if you don't revert when the evidence doesn't show up on your timeline fast enough. This is what separates someone who quantum jumps from someone who just wishes for quantum jumping. One sends a signal and stays in it. The other sends a signal and waits for proof, and when the proof doesn't come, they collapse back into the old self, the old broadcast, the old life. But there's a specific protocol for this. Not just theory, but something you can actually do when the mind spirals, when the body panics, when the old identity tries to pull you back. Let's break the myth right now. Quantum jumping isn't a one-time decision. It's a sequence, a vibrational ritual, a daily act of collapsing the illusion that you are fixed, limited, or late. The process has 5 steps, not linear, not forced, but energetic postures that allow you to become the version of you that already exists in the timeline you've been trying to reach. Let's call this the broadcast shift. And before we begin, let me warn you. The third step is going to seem so simple that you might be tempted to skip it. Don't do that. It's exactly in that simplicity where the power lies. In fact, people who ignore the third step get at most 20% of the results. But those who master it, well, they achieve things that seem impossible. First step, recognize the discomfort as a signal, not a sign of failure. Every time you feel the old self coming back, the fear, the self-doubt, the delay, don't judge it. Don't resist it. Recognize it as your signal that you are on the threshold of the jump. In quantum terms, the discomfort is energetic interference, static between your current frequency and the one you're tuning to. The mistake most people make, they interpret the static as a no when it's actually a recalibration. Second step, interrupt the emotional pattern immediately. When the old emotion kicks in, your body wants to follow the path of least resistance. The familiar story. But here's the power move. Interrupt the broadcast, change your posture, change your breath, speak out loud, do something physical and symbolic to stop the loop. Neuroscience shows us that pattern interruption is the fastest way to disrupt neural coherence and create space for a new choice. And here's a trick that works surprisingly well. When you feel the old emotion coming, smile. Even if forced, even if it feels fake. Your brain can't maintain a stress pattern while the facial muscles are in the position of joy. It's pure biology. Simple? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. Third step, embody the frequency of the timeline you want. This is the jump point. You ask, if I already had what I wanted, how would I feel? And you let that feeling take over your nervous system. Not pretend, not visualize, be. For 90 seconds, 3 minutes, however long it takes to flood your field with coherence. You don't need to see the outcome, you need to feel the alignment. The field doesn't measure the outcome, it measures the signal. So broadcast it. Fourth step, take one action from the new identity. Quantum jumping doesn't mean sitting in silence waiting for reality to catch up. It means taking action from your new broadcast. Not to get something, but to demonstrate the shift. Maybe it's a message you send, a boundary you hold, a new thought you practice. It doesn't matter how small. What matters is that it's in character with the version of you that's already living in the new frequency. This creates entanglement. The field begins to mirror back proof because your signal just became measurable. Fifth step, detach from the timeline. Stay in the vibration. This is the most misunderstood part. Most people do the ritual, feel good, and then start scanning reality for results. The moment you look for proof, you've stepped out of frequency and back into fear. Real jumping means staying in the vibration even when nothing changes yet, especially then, because that's the ultimate test, and the field is always listening. And now comes the part that will separate you from 95% of the people who try this, because there's a psychological trap so subtle, so unconscious, that most don't even realize they're falling into it. And this trap has a specific name. Let's make this tangible. Try this ritual tomorrow morning. Wake up, sit upright. Before checking your phone, ask, which version of me am I choosing to broadcast today? Then close your eyes, breathe and feel the answer. Not from thought, but from posture, breath and energy. Maybe the answer is calm, bold, trusting, expansive, free. Whatever the answer, hold that signal for 2 minutes. Then walk into your day as if nothing else exists but that version of you. Speak from it, move from it, react from it, and watch what shifts. Because when your entire being becomes the new signal, reality no longer has the choice to resist. It must obey. Not because you forced it, but because you're no longer matching the old reality's echo. You've stopped being a receiver, you've become a transmitter. And transmitters don't chase proof, they create it by holding the frequency until it materializes. But there's something that gets in the way of this process and why most people collapse the new broadcast without realizing it. They thought the doubt was harmless. They thought checking for results was normal. They didn't realize that every time they asked, "Is it working?" they were collapsing the broadcast and falling back into the orbit of the old self. Let's break this down. In quantum physics, the observer effect shows us that the act of measuring a particle changes its state. In human transformation, The act of doubting your shift changes its frequency. It's not about being positive all the time. It's about not interrupting the new signal with the old identity's fear. Because here's what happens. You declare a new version of yourself. You feel it. You act from it. The field begins to respond. But then silence. No proof. No sign. Your old programming kicks in. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I did it wrong. And in that moment, your frequency collapses. Not because the shift wasn't real, but because you stopped broadcasting it. And the quantum field can only mirror what you sustain. This is where emotional mastery becomes essential. Not emotional suppression, but awareness. You start to feel doubt. Name it. Don't become it. You feel impatience. Observe it. Don't feed it. You catch yourself looking for signs, pause, return to signal. Remember, every emotion is a frequency and the field isn't personal. It's mechanical. It doesn't punish you for fear. It just reflects it. So the question isn't, how do I stop feeling this? It's, which feeling do I choose to embody even when this one shows up? This is what it means to anchor the jump. You don't wait to feel ready. You practice being the signal until that signal becomes your nervous system's default. And here's the paradox. The less you chase the result, the faster it arrives. Why? Because chasing implies separation. Separation implies lack. And lack tells the field, this isn't mine. So when you say, I'll believe it when I see it, you've already lost. But when you say, I believe it and that's why I'll see it, you've jumped. That's what it means to choose yourself without proof. To back your new identity even when the world hasn't caught up. To stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. Funny how life works, isn't it? You spend years chasing something, forcing, pushing, and nothing happens. Then you relax, trust the process, and suddenly things start flowing as if the universe was just waiting for you to stop trying to control everything. It's almost as if there's a cosmic intelligence with a sense of humor. Now, what actually happens when the jump begins to land? Not the visualization, not the decision, but the moment when your field, your sustained broadcast becomes so consistent, so precise, that the quantum field has no choice but to reflect it back. Chaos, silence, reorganization. Because your new frequency doesn't just attract what you want, it repels what no longer matches. And that, at first, can feel like loss, like confusion, like everything is falling apart, right when you finally committed to the new version of yourself. This is the paradox of change. You jump and suddenly your relationships feel distant, your job feels foreign, your habits feel toxic. Nothing bad is happening. What's happening is energetic misalignment being exposed. Think of it this way. You were vibrating at 93.7 FM, and your life, your people, your patterns, your experiences were all tuned to that signal. But now you've shifted. You're at 104.5. You're still in the same room but broadcasting something completely new. So naturally some things start to drift. It's kind of like when you change social circles and suddenly realize that those jokes you used to find funny now seem kind of empty. It's not that the people changed, you grew. And that's okay. Growth sometimes means leaving things behind, even if it hurts a little at first. Conversations feel off. People don't understand you. Opportunities disappear. The familiar feels hollow. That's not regression. That's resonance correcting itself. In quantum terms, you've shifted your vibrational signature, and the field is now recalibrating, removing everything entangled with the old you. It's not rejection, it's realignment. You may feel alone. You may feel tested. You may question if you made the right choice, but this is exactly the space where reality starts to bend. When the old timeline loses grip and the new one hasn't fully materialized yet, you're in the void. The sacred in-between, the place where your job is not to react but to remain in signal. This is where your nervous system is most tempted to go back, to reach for the familiar, to apologize for the shift, to tone it down, slow it down, second-guess the decision. But this is the moment of anchoring, because what most call tests from the universe are not tests at all. They're echoes. Echoes of your past frequency bouncing back one last time, asking, "Are you sure?" And you don't answer with words. You answer with embodiment. You wake up. You breathe into the frequency of your new self. You take actions that the old self never would. You stop explaining your evolution to those who demand evidence. You let go, not of people, but of the version of you who needed their validation. And then something shifts. A message from someone new, an opportunity that didn't exist before, a synchronicity so perfect, so improbable, it makes you laugh through the tears. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. And here's something you'll find interesting. These confirmations usually come from where you least expect them. It's not the boss who finally recognizes you. It's an invitation to something completely new. It's not the person you wanted to come back. It's someone much better who appears out of nowhere. The universe has a peculiar way of exceeding our limited expectations, proof that the field has locked in, that the broadcast is now your baseline, that you're no longer leaking energy into old stories. It may not happen all at once, it may take a few days, a few weeks, but it always happens, because reality isn't random, it's rhythmic. And when you become the rhythm of your next level, your timeline tunes itself to you. So don't fear the silence. Don't interpret the void as failure. Don't mistake the loss of alignment for punishment. Instead, see it for what it is. A clearing, a vibrational detox, a cosmic vacuum making room for the version of you that's already arrived, waiting to be received. There's something powerful about a decision no one else sees, a quiet choice you make within, before the evidence, before the applause, before the alignment shows up on the outside. That's the real quantum jump. Not the vision board, not the meditation, but the moment you stop broadcasting lack and start embodying your own frequency with no witnesses, but the field itself. Because the field is always watching, not like a judge, but like a mirror, a neutral, infinite intelligence that bends to one thing only, your broadcast. And now you know what that broadcast truly is. It's not your thoughts, not your wants, not your words. It's the vibration you hold even when no one is looking. And the most potent frequency you can hold is certainty. Not certainty in outcome, but certainty in self. When you choose yourself, not once, but over and over in the silence, in the unknown, in the waiting room between identities, you are sending the strongest signal the universe can receive. You're saying, "This is who I am, and I don't need proof to be it." That's when the shift becomes real. That's when the new timeline can finally land. Not because you chased it, but because you matched it. You became it. And from this point on, reality is no longer a condition. It's a confirmation, an echo of the version of you that already exists, now made visible. So don't look for results, look for resonance. Don't ask, "Is it working?" Ask, "Am I broadcasting my future or rehearsing my past?" That one question will collapse illusions, timelines, and old selves in a single breath. Because when you stop seeking the shift and start becoming the shift, everything reorganizes around you. And it won't be dramatic. It won't be loud. It'll be subtle, elegant, inevitable. Actually, you'll discover that the biggest transformations are the quietest ones. No fireworks or epic revelations. Just a growing sense that you're finally at home in your own body, in your own life. And that's much more powerful than any Hollywood drama. A new friend who arrives at the exact moment you stop needing one, an idea that shows up when you stop forcing answers. An opportunity that makes no logical sense, but every energetic sense. That's not luck, that's not coincidence. That's the quantum field whispering back, "Message received." So if you felt something stir in you during this process, if something clicked, shifted, resonated on a level you can't quite explain, that's your field moving. That's coherence rising. That's your new timeline opening. And here's what I want you to do next. Nothing drastic, nothing big. Just take one small step from this frequency. Maybe it's writing down the version of you you're broadcasting now. Maybe it's deleting the thing that no longer matches. Maybe it's sitting in silence and breathing as your future self for just 60 seconds longer. Whatever it is, let it come from certainty. If something you heard here resonated deeply, if you felt a subtle but unmistakable shift in your internal energy, leave your response in the comments. I choose to transform. Not for me, not for the algorithm, but as a declaration to the quantum field that you're ready to access your next version. The transformation you seek isn't coming someday. It's available now, waiting only for you to stop being who you used to be and start being who you came here to become.